Welcome back. Nigeria's electoral space has entered a new chapter with the appointment and swearing in of Professor Joash Ojo Amuputan as the new chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. His emergence comes at a critical time when public trust in the electoral process is under intense scrutiny and calls for reform are louder than ever. While many Nigerians are hopeful that his leadership will restore confidence and drive long-awaited reforms within the commission, others are cautious, questioning whether INEC under new management can truly deliver free, fair and credible elections in the face of mounting political pressure and logistics. What are your thoughts on this? Joining us from our Abuja studio is Mr. Ezenwa Nwagwu, a respected voice on electoral governance and civic advocacy. He is the Executive Director of the Peering, Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa, PACA, and a long-standing champion of democratic accountability in Nigeria. Welcome to the show, sir. You can also join the conversation and call us on 09024163440. Or tweet to us using the hashtag YourViewTVC so we can, take your tweets. Welcome, sir, Mr. Ezenwa Nwagwu. Are you there?
Yes, good morning. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome to the show, sir. So, what's your first impression of Professor Amuputan's appointment as INEC chairman?
Well, I to be honest with you, I have no impression. And the reason is because I'm pushing for more of institutional thinking than the building of personality cults that I've seen over time. And how that has not helped, whether it is election or governance. The personalization of power comes from our military past, where we think an individual carries the magic wand. Professor Amuputan will be coming to work with 12 other national commissioners that he did not appoint, that are not his surrogates, that are not his boys or girls. He's going to be working with 37 resident electoral commissioners that he did not appoint, that are not his surrogates. He's going to be working with 37 administrative staff who are like what we call head of service of the states where they are working in. They are the non-political appointees. They are the career people. He's going to be working with 774 electoral officers who heads INEC in the 774 local governments across the country. He's going to be working with close to 15,000 permanent INEC staff that include directors and other staff. And for a general election, he will work with over 1 million ad hoc staff, which includes now vice chancellors and other academics who will work as returning officers and collation officers. So his ability to navigate these, structure and manage it properly will be his first very important call. And the reason I say this is because oftentimes we place a lot of premium on
the personality,
the individual, waving this magic wand and then commanding outcomes. But that's not what the INEC structure permits. The INEC structure works within, at the national level, those national commissioners head committees. There will be committee. You have a national commissioner in charge of operations. You have a national commissioner in charge of voter education and information. You have the one in charge of EOM and party monitoring. All of these committees working together produce whatever outcomes that we see in our electoral process. And your opener is something that I also have tried to challenge. I think that language is also important for institutional building. When we say restore confidence, we need to be clear who we are listening to. I would want to say improve confidence. Because partisans for a competitive and divisive enterprise like elections partisans use different kind of language.
Yeah.
The people who won the election cannot be talking about improving, cannot be talking about restoring, rebuilding. They will be talking about, you know, how do we, because they benefited, and that is how partisans look at processes. The other side will say nothing worked. So Amupiton will have to be very clear about consolidation, about consultation, and then looking at those things that went well in the electoral process and see how he can improve upon them for better, you know, better election administration. And those things that didn't go well, how can we tweak it to improve? And like I also keep saying, we are people in a hurry. Once something doesn't go well, we don't allow innovations to mature. We don't allow anything we throw into the process because we want quick outcomes. But this is not a microwave. Election administration is not a microwave thing. It takes time. It matures. Some of the things we complain about, the Electoral Act 2022 was 1 year old when we used it to conduct the 2023
election.
And the outcome that we got from it should be a learning curve rather than you know, the kind of full stop that we put to it, and we want to just quickly move into new things that eventually we may even come back to the things that we jettisoned earlier. So for me, it's an institutional thinking rather than building of.
Thank you, Mr. Ezenwa. Let's get in a few more questions.
You so much,
Thank you. That was well explained.
Awesome. Mr. Nwagwu, I like the nuance, the positive spin with which you urged us to be critical thinking in how we approach our democracy. I loved it. Thank you so much for that wisdom. There's a lot of reforms being done within the National Assembly towards the election, the electoral reforms. There's also the question of what reforms would you want the new INEC chairman to do, based on how we know that it's beyond him. It's an institution. What reforms do you believe he should implement? And what reforms do you think the National Assembly should be putting in place based on the ones you've heard they are working on so far to strengthen the institution of INEC to deliver democracy consistently?
Thank you. So election has a election and electoral issues has a pyramid. Sitting topmost at that pyramid is the EMB, the Electoral Management Body, and then you then have the politicians who are the beneficiaries of our efforts. Then you have security agencies. Then you have the electorate. You have civil society, which also includes the media. And then non-governmental organizations, meaning traditional rulers, faith-based organizations, all play a role. So for the EMB, the first thing, like I said, is to widen consultations. The outgone commission had quarterly consultations with the media, the civil society, and the political parties and security agencies. I think that consultation needs to be widened more to bring in other, very important stakeholders within the election format who can make contributions. Okay. Reforms must not always be legislative. There are attitudinal reforms that needs to come to play for the politicians, and we give them a lot of comfort, to be honest with you. 60-70% of the shenanigan that takes place in our electoral process are done by the politicians who are completely absent from any conversation about reform. Indeed, their focus is to subvert whatever reform that you put in place. And even the National Assembly, where you go to for these reforms, are dominated by the politicians. And so they leave gaps and openings that makes it that every time you finish an election, you have to come back to the National Assembly for new call for reforms. So attitudinal, what can we talk to the politicians? Who does the vote by?
The politicians.
Who corrupts the electoral officials?
The politicians.
Who introduces violence and siege mentality into the electoral process?
Politicians.
Okay. Can they have a conversation within themselves to change their attitude towards how they subvert the reforms that we have put in place? The voters that are ready to be induced and compromised have a role to play. The security agents who will have to escort these materials when they compromise, there is a challenge in terms of punctuality index for elections. The vendors who provide the vehicles that the Independent National Electoral Commission uses will have to have a different attitude than where they are paid to come deliver a service. When the time gets for them to deliver the service, they renege on the memorandum of understanding that they have entered. So these are attitudinal, challenges that you have to put in one place. For the legislation, we need to expand the democratic space. Women are talking about reserved seats. They are talking about the fact that
Mr.
it is indeed.
Mr. Ezenwa, I'd like to pause you there for a minute, so that when we come back from the short break, we'll continue the conversation. Nwagwu. Mr. Ezenwa, are you still there?
I'm here.
Yes, you were talking about the women reserved seats before we went on a short break, and I'd like you to finish that thought.
Yes, so I want to see, and I think quite a good chunk of Nigerians want to see more women in our legislature. The current statistics is diminishing. It diminishes us as a people that we will be having 4.7%, women in our legislature. I think that is not fair. So I think they should prioritize expanding that space in a way that this underserved category of Nigerians are brought into not just decision process, but in the lawmaking process. Like somebody have said, there are things that are very women-centered that only women can interface and engage with.
Yeah, we agree.
People talk about competence, capacity. It's not as if those who are there, the men have any more competence or capacity. So we should waive those arguments. They should factor those in. Those of you who are working, in as journalists, those of us in civil society, medical people, members of the armed forces who cannot vote on election day when they are on duty, we need early voting. We need to be able to prioritize early voting so that this category of Nigerians can be captured into the electoral net.
Amazing.
We need to also remove the bottlenecks around diaspora voting. I think that is important. And then more importantly is to see what we do with Section 65. Section 65 talks about upload of results. That is going on right now, but that's not sufficient. We need to talk about electronic collation. Electronic collation of results. This whole idea of carrying ballot box from one local government to the state and all of that, we can put away all that and see how we create a digital platform that is secured, that is able to move these results from one point
to the other.
To the order.
Thank you, Mr. Nwagwu. Let's get a few more questions
we can also begin to talk about inmates. Inmates, people who are in prison, who are awaiting trial, who have not been convicted. We must create a space to
them to be able to vote. That's interesting. I never thought about it.
IDP voting as well.
Go ahead.
So I'd like to ask you, Nima.
Yes, the House Committee on the Electoral Act are looking to amend the 2022 Electoral Act already. You mentioned just earlier that it was just a year old when we had the elections, and we were so critical of some of the reforms not being met by the institution called INEC. What do you think about these new amendments that they are proposing now, particularly the one that looks to move the election 6 months forward?
To be honest with you, anybody who is making that proposal probably does not even understand Nigeria. In the sense that timing is a call for anarchy. I think we should stay in our February dates and maintain it, because those were part of the things. There is some kind of, in terms of, clearly that every February we are having election, you can plan towards it. Once you start all these amendments, the motive is still yet not clear. For me as an individual and for many people that I've had conversations with, I think that proposal is ill-timed.
Okay, my question will bother on the appointment of Professor Amopitan. And do you think that his appointment would inspire public confidence? And at this period where I think Nigerians have lost total trust in the electoral system, looking at the election of the previous election. We know that there's a huge deficit of trust, and some of these things you've also mentioned. So my second question is, how should the new INEC chairman build public trust within his commission?
Okay, you used total, have lost total confidence.
Yes.
I think that's very unstatistical in terms of, that's my personal view. I think that for institutional building, we don't need to use those kind of language, because election, like I said, is a very divisive enterprise, is a competitive enterprise, and people come to it with different attitudes. There are people who come with a winner takes all. If it's not me, then everything that happened there is not good. For those of us who are working from the sides, we have to be looking at what went well, what didn't go well. If you ask me, if you had a 2023 election that gave you the most diversified National Assembly since our return to democracy, when I mean diversified, I'm talking about where you have, in quotes, 40% opposition political parties winning, membership into the House of Representatives, and 22% in the Senate. Those opposition political parties, in a winner-takes-all kind of election that we saw in 2003 and 2027, you are not going to have that kind of opposition percentage in the legislature. In that 2023 election, the president of the country, who appointed the INEC chairman, lost election in his home state, Katsina, in the presidential election. He lost in Kaduna State, where he commands a cult image in the presidential election. The PDP and an incumbent governor who was an APC governor was in that state when APC lost election in Kaduna State. The president lost election in the Villa, and also an opposition senator is representing the only senatorial seat in FCT. Seven governors lost, incumbent governors lost election to come to the Senate, and most of these governors were APC governors. The current president of Nigeria, lost presidential election in Lagos State, where his party is the dominant political party, and lost in Osun State, where it is said he has a relationship. So the point that I'm making is that for an election to be said to be fair, it has to be competitive. It has to be credible. And the thresholds for this is clearly whether opposition political parties are able to win election. If you talk about integrity, there are other considerations for integrity. The vote buying that you saw in 2023 was not done by the Independent Electoral Commission. It is in the square environment of the politicians who buy votes. The other things that undermine that election are clearly in the domain of the politicians. And like I keep saying, we give them a lot of comfort. We don't like to call them out. If they embrace reform, attitudinal reform, the work of the EMB will be a bit lessened. So for Amupiton, when you continue to say, what magic will Amupiton do? He has 20 innovations that the last commission, quiet innovations, that the last commission handed over to him. He should consolidate on them, improve on them, and make sure that the sanctions that have gone, where you have a professor or two professors that are in jail, in Akwa Ibom State, where you have Adamawa resident electoral commissioner, Sokoto resident electoral commissioner, and Abia State resident electoral commissioner suspended and sacked for their role in undermining elections. Those things are the things that should inspire confidence, and those are the things that he should uphold. Consequence management is important. He should improve the welfare, working condition of the people who conduct these elections. If you conduct an election that brings governors, that brings president, and your salary cannot take you home. When the politicians come to induce them, they become willing, and there is no sermon, there is no English that you are going to speak, that they are going to listen to. So we need to improve the working conditions of folks who work within the electoral management body in a way that can build a guardrail against the onslaught of inducement that comes from our politicians who are completely absent from any conversation around reforms.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ezenwa. I like how you started, your analogy in the beginning, when you talked about the fact that we need to pay more attention to the structures and systems instead of the personality of, our leaders. And aside from the fact that we're talking about INEC, I'd like you to give us an idea on how we can, better strengthen our systems and, structures with INEC and also every other aspect of, our leadership in this country, where we now have very strong structures and systems that can help uphold democracy, aside from just putting all our, hope on single individuals across board.
Okay, let me start with where you are in the studio now. You have a script there. No matter how excited you are about the conversation that you are having, when it is time to go for break, you go for break.
Yes, sir.
No matter how excited you are about the conversation, when it is time to close the conversation,
you close it.
You close the conversation.
Yes,
because there is a system that checks you, that does not allow you to use your discretion. The challenge that we have is that many times we have built a system that is built on the whims and caprices of individuals rather than laws and systems. So if you like, you change the goalposts in the middle of the match, and people who will respond to it from, is it the first time it's happening? After all, the Igbo man did it, the Yoruba man did it. The other person did it. So why is it now that it is the turn of the Igbo that you are saying
you want to do it?
So we throw in ethnicity, we throw in religion, we throw in such other antediluvial, considerations to undermine systems. If you travel out of this country in many places, if you violate traffic rule, you don't say sorry. There is no sorry. There is nothing like I beg, I'm in a hurry, I'm going to somewhere. A ticket is given to you. If you like, don't pay. If you like, pay. There are systems. Here, you don't know where I live. My house does not have an address. Even when it has address, it is not connected to anything. If I beat traffic, I go away. There is no system. There is no CCTV. There is nothing. So we are a systemless people.
Ew.
And so governance will be such that it will be on the whims and caprices of the people
leaders
who run it. If you go to our churches, they announce to you that service will start by 8 a.m. and close by 10. When it is 10 o'clock, they extend it to 12, and you say, we have a long service. Let us, the Holy Spirit
let us.
There is no respect for time. There is no respect for system. So if we become a system-minded people, we will not be worshiping heroes. We will not be too much interested in heroes. Listen, look at the appointment of Amupiton, for instance. The president nominates. When the president nominates, he nominates the resident electoral commissioners, nominates the elect. Then the security, the secret police of Nigeria will do a vetting. That vetting is not open to anybody, whether the people that we are vetted we are suitable for appointment or not. From there, it goes to it goes to the Council of State. The Council of State says Amupiton is fit unanimously. Then you go to the National Assembly, where you have Committee on Defense and Intelligence, you have Committee on Special Fraud, you have Committee on Electoral Matters, all looking at this candidate, this nominee. And they come out with a result that says he's fit to be nominated. He's fit. They screened somebody who is a ministerial appointment, and the minister went through all of this process. And today, we have found out that he has fake results. If these systems, these oversight institutions, we are working the way they should, we will not be having the kind of challenges that we have. So my take is that we are not a system people. We are emotional. We are very emotional. We draw into things that diminishes us as a people, religion, ethnicity. But leadership, governance, hunger, starvation do not have tribal marks. They don't know the church that you attend.
They don't have
so
emotions.
we need to have a system where whoever comes into it, good or bad man, fits into that system, doesn't do anything that he likes, but works according to script, just like, you know, those of you beautiful, delectable women are running in the studio there. That is the kind of system that we should have.
Thank you so much. That was excellently put.
You deserve
excellently
a round of
put,
applause.
sir. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today to share your insights. And we recognize the big brain that you are. Doing PhDs, not Bs, you know. You were able to break it down critically and give us a better understanding of the situation at large. And thank you so much, ladies, for being beautiful today and asking the right questions and giving the brainy questions and all of that. Mr. Ezenwa, that's all we can take on the show today. Thank you for joining us. We hope to have you from time to time to share with us your insights on different topical and political issues. That's all we can take on the show today. We'll see you again tomorrow for another interesting show. Bye-bye now.